Now the next one is logs. How do we handle logs in containers or in Kubernetes? So there can be multiple logs. First we have master nodes. So for master node, if you get access to the master node, if you're running your cluster using KubeADM, of course you can get the access. You can get access to master node. I mean, you can SSH into it. But if you're using cloud service provider, you cannot see these logs in the nodes. But for your own cluster, these are the places where you can see the logs. It will be typically in var log for API server. For scheduler, var log kube hyphen scheduler. For controller, it will be var log kube hyphen controller manager dot log. For worker nodes, again, if you can SSH into it, the log for kubelet would be var log kubelet dot log, and for kube proxy, the logs would be stored in var log kube hyphen proxy dot log. Now, what if you are using cloud service provider? So in that case, if you are using AWS, all these logs would be stored in CloudWatch logs. If you are using Google Cloud, then all these logs would be stored in Stackdriver logs. Same is the case with application logs, CloudWatch on AWS, and Stackdriver monitoring or Stackdriver logs on GCP. So there's one more way to pull your all the logs to a centralized location. So what will happen is that, let's say you're running pods and the pods die. So if the pods die, the applications will go away also. But the problem is that along with the pod, you'll lose the log application logs as well. So of course, it is not a good idea to keep the logs in the volume mounts. Rather than it should be in a centralized location. So the way it is done is, let's say we have two nodes, node 1 and node 2, and these are the various pods or deployments or services running. Now, if we have to get the application logs, not only application logs, API server logs, controller logs, etc., kubelet logs, all those logs can be put in a centralized location by using something called a log agent. Let's say FluentD. So what we'll do is we'll run FluentD as daemon set in all the nodes, and this FluentD will capture logs from all the pods, basically the application logs, and send them to a centralized location, which will be a logging backend, which can be AWS CloudWatch logs, it can be GCP Stackdriver logs also, or it can be a database as well, or it can be an Apache Spark cluster also, wherein you can do real-time analysis of the logs. So there are various options available, but this is one of the most famous. Notice that FluentD is an open source tool, and these are all log agents. You have to set up FluentD. First, you have to run FluentD as pods in all the nodes. You have to make sure that no matter what, this FluentD agent runs on all the nodes, and the only way to do it is creating a daemon set. So once this FluentD agent runs, the configuration we might have already done in the FluentD's configuration file, will pull the log, application logs or system logs, both can be done from a predefined location. From that location, it will pull these log files from all the nodes, and then it will send it to the logging backend, which can be any database, or if you're using cloud service provider, it can be CloudWatch for AWS and Stackdriver for GCP. So that's all I want to discuss in the miscellaneous sections. There are two more things like stateful set, which I have not discussed, and it is a workload API object which is used to manage stateful applications. So far, we have not seen any stateful applications, meaning, let's say, if you launch applications in a pod, and if the pod dies, the state of the application will be gone. If you want an application whose state you want to maintain, then you'd use stateful set to deploy that application. The next one is pod security policies. Pod security policy is a cluster level resource which controls security sensitive aspects of the pod. Let's say you want to mention some specification of the pod which are very sensitive. Then you can use a pod security policy object to define those set of conditions that a pod must run with. And those conditions might be very sensitive. So that's where pod security policies are used. As I said, you can skip these two. In fact, you can skip all the objects that I have shown you in the miscellaneous section, except for config map, that is kind of important. Security context and capabilities are not that important. Ingress is very, very important, which we'll anyway discuss in the next section, which is Istio. But apart from that, remaining sections can be easily skipped. But make sure to take a look at config map, if not all.